Erev Tov. Welcome back to the barley field. Thanks for joining me this evening to count the Omer and learn a little bit of Pirkei Avot. So this week we are reading a Mishnah from chapter 5, Mishnah 17. Every dispute that is for the sake of heaven will endure, but one that is not for the sake of heaven will not endure. Kol machloket shehi l'shem shamayim, sofa lehitkayem, v'she'ena l'shem shamayim, ein sofa lehitkayem. The Mishnah asks, Ezehi machloket shehi l'shem shamayim? Which kind of dispute is that which is for the sake of heaven? Zo machloket Hillel v'Shammai. Such was the dispute of Hillel and Shammai. V'she'ena l'shem shamayim? And which is the dispute that is not for the sake of heaven? Zo machloket Korach v'chol adato. Such was the dispute of Korach and his cohort. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's start by exploring what it means for a dispute to be for the sake of heaven or not. So this is a distinction of purpose. What is the goal of the argument? Is it to solve something, or is it for one party to dominate the other? The medieval commentator Ovadia Bartanura says, a dispute l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, is one whose purpose is the pursuit of truth. On the other hand, a dispute that is not l'shem shamayim is one in which the opponents are arguing for the sake of achieving power. And what about the second statement? If a dispute is l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, it will endure. Otherwise, it will not endure. Bartanura understands from this that the parties engaged in the dispute will not perish because of it. And his example for this is in the Mishnah itself. The students of Hillel and Shammai did not perish as a result of their dispute, but Korach and his cohort did perish. Another take on this question comes from the Spanish philosopher Rabbeinu Yonah, who taught a dispute for the sake of heaven will in the end endure, means that the two parties in dispute will be locked in their argument forever. One topic today, another topic tomorrow, and so on and so forth. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. He adds that eternally in this machloket, the lives of those on either side will increase in length of days. That is to say, that parties that are engaged in machloket l'shem shamayim, argument for the sake of heaven, will be rewarded with longer life. So let's look to the second half of the Mishnah, which offers the examples of Hillel and Shammai on one hand, and Korach on the other. The story of Korach is found in the middle of the book of Numbers, the penultimate book of Torah. In it, Korach rebels against the leadership of Moses and Aaron because he seeks the power of the priesthood for himself and his family, not for the sake of divine service to God. For their rebellion, all 250 men in Korach's cohort were consumed by heavenly fire and killed, and all their households and possessions were swallowed by the earth. Korach's dispute with Moses and Aaron, as I said, was not for a sacred purpose. It was a matter of vanity for Korach. He wished to elevate himself over his fellows, and his pride became his downfall. On the other hand, or as we say in Hebrew, lehefech, we have Hillel and Shammai, two houses of study led by leaders of great renown and wisdom, locked in a seemingly never-ending disagreement over their respective interpretations of Torah. So what was it that made the disputes between Hillel and Shammai machloket l'shem shamayim, dispute for the sake of heaven? Simply, they sought the truth. They were always searching for the right way to interpret God's teaching, and they never lost sight of this holy purpose. And perhaps even more importantly, they did so with humility, respecting the discourse of their interlocutors, even while they disagreed on the content. The lesson of this Mishnah is not to avoid disagreement. In fact, it celebrates it. The schools of Hillel and Shammai were locked in dispute for generations, and we praise them for it. And so what we learn from them and from this Mishnah is that the goal of our actions is as important as the end result, and the manner in which we pursue these goals is perhaps the most important of all, with humility and with reverence for the eternal. And now we will count the Omer for this evening. I hope you'll join me in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al Sefirat HaOmer. Blessed are you, eternal, our God, sovereign of all worlds, who makes us holy with your mitzvot, and has commanded us concerning the counting of the Omer. Hayom, 32 yom, shehem 4 Shavuot ve4 yamim laOmer. Today is the 32nd day, making 4 weeks and 4 days of the Omer. Erev Tov.